Hey, welcome back to the channel. Today I am working on a 1970 RX7. It's an SA model. Came to me from a buddy for a little bit of carburetor help. The engine was rebuilt and the carburetor was rebuilt. And he's driven it about 1,000 miles, but the carburetor's never been right. And it keeps getting worse. It keeps flooding. So I got it in here in my shop. I fired it up. It ran fine. I wouldn't quite want to idle when it was cold, so I was like trying to mess with that, but I hopped out of the car and it died, and then I looked inside the carburetor and fuel was just pouring into the carburetor from the main jet and the secondaries. There was like fuel sitting on top of the secondary butterflies. So we're going to talk carburetors today. Basically, I've already got the carburetor off. It is very simple to do. Got to pull a couple vacuum lines, and there are 4 nuts that are difficult to get to. Not impossible, just a little difficult. You gotta kind of have some magic tricks up in your sleeve to be able to get it off. So here is the cute little 12A engine. Yeah, it's literally just those 4 studs that hold the carburetor on. This engine still has the vacuum diaphragms, or solenoids, I should say, though the air pump has been removed, and it has a header on it, so the back exhaust flow through the intake has been capped. I didn't do the air pump delete or anything. That shouldn't affect things with the other solenoids on there. And in theory, they should make it run better because they can, mess with the different circuits in the carburetor. There's a lot of circuits in these little Nikki carburetors. Just because the rotary engine needs variable amounts of fuel throughout its power band. And so I've gotten all my manuals out to refresh my memory. My rotary swapped MG has this same exact carburetor and setup, but I deleted everything because race car. So the fun Nikki carburetors on the bench. I got my 80 workshop manual. It's the same thing as a 79. And then I also have over here. Wow, shadows in this place are ridiculous. I printed off this. I found this on foxed.ca. It's a little bit more of a comprehensive carburetor-specific thing, and it gives you a lot more details. And so I'm guessing, since it's flooding, that the float bowls are filling up completely and overflowing into the intake manifold. So we're going to check on the float. And there's a bunch of other little things that I want to check on. And then, this is the diagram that you get when you get a Nikki rebuild kit. This is the only instructions it comes with. Really helpful. It doesn't tell you how to take it apart. Though, like, all the little tiny bits, like 53 and 58, those tiny little ball bearings that are check balls, are very important. So we're gonna go through this carburetor very meticulously and figure out why things are having an issue. Off first glance, when I was taking this off, the previous person did put gaskets between the carb base plate, which I think is part of our problem. This carburetor base plate is made of a material that is basically a gasket in itself. They actually have, there is an actual gasket glued to it. Don't try to remove this. If you do, you will expose all of the little tunnels where these vacuum lines are hooked up at. So this is a gasket. So you don't need to double up the gaskets. Even though the carburetor rebuild kit comes with more gaskets, they're unnecessary. So that top gasket did have all these little holes in it, so that was a good sign. Though there was also a gasket under here. Let's see if I can pop this off with one hand. There we go. And as you can tell, there's holes on the bottom side of this too. There's one there, and one there. And, you know, they all are like little tunnels to these 5 vacuum ports, and also go down here. So off the top of my head, I know for sure that this one is part of the altitude adjustment circuit. I'd have to read up what these two do. But essentially all 3 of these were completely blocked by this gasket, which I don't know if that is the source of the flooding, but that's a problem. So we are gonna, I don't know, we'll see if we time-lapse this carburetor disassembly or not, but we're gonna take it apart now. See if I can set my camera somewhere where it can be seen. Oh well. So, even though I know my way around this carburetor, I'm still going to use the manual and step-by-step disassemble it, because there is a step-by-step process that makes it easier. I mean, you can go at this and just take shit apart, but you will find out that some things need to come off before others. Let's get to it. Okay. So what I like to do is get a little 2x4 and put 2 bolts in it to give the carburetor something to sit on, because the linkage hangs below the carburetor. So it just kind of supports it on the table and lets it not roll around. So first things first is we're going to take off the throttle opener and bracket assembly in the dash pod. So this is the dash pot, and this is the throttle opener. Set that off to the side. Then we're going to get in here and take off those 2 screws that are in there holding this bracket on. With most of these, some of them are bolts, some of them are screws. So you want to make sure you got a quality screwdriver. Sometimes it can be a little tight. Oh, that's loose. And this dude has a little vacuum line on him, so we're going to be gentle with that. Little twist, rotate, set that off to the side, and we're going to pull the throttle spring. And this one has a little baby clippy. What we're going to do is we're going to pop this off. It's got 2 washers on either side of it. And we're going to put the little clippy back in its hole. Okay. And that's just, yeah, that's just going to hang out there. Like that. Then the fun part is the choke, because it is somewhat spring-loaded. We're going to take these 2 screws off the top. And there's that guy with its screws in there. And we're going to disconnect this choke lever right here from the top side. And another little baby cotter pin. I think I've already gone off script on the, well, no, not really. From what the manual says, but I don't necessarily, I'm trying to see if I can do this. Remember it, I can. That's going to be crucial to get back up in here, up to there. Let me go put it back together. Pull this vacuum line off. If I take out this last screw on this back side, yeah, this whole linkage will come off, but yeah, this is spring loaded. This is fun to get back on for the choke. It's the electric return, I believe. So in here is a biometallic spring that you have to wind up just a little bit when you install it back on this lever. The choke is manual anyways, but yeah, this is just a crazy looking bracket, you know. So this is your accelerator pump. Since this car is flooding, I don't think the accelerator pump is the issue. So yeah, and then we pull the long bolt out, and then there's a couple screws. That guy goes over there to that. That hold, what do they call it? The air horn assembly. The top part's called the air horn assembly. And be gentle with these screws. The long ones go right here next to the fuel inlets, fuel line. Okay, and then this guy has your floats attached to it. So there is the inside of the carburetor and all the jets and the double venturis. Oh my god, shadows. Here we go. The fuel is a little bit yellow, not terrible. Yeah, we're gonna pull these jets out, make sure there's no crud in them. My theory is that the floats are the issue, so we're gonna look into that next. So we are slowly pulling out the jets now. This is the part of the accelerator pump. As you can see, a tiny little check ball. I mean, it's so tiny. You want to make sure that all these pieces are in there and they're all super clean. This guy was a little gunky. Got it cleaned up. And now I'm going to pull all of these jets one by one and assemble them, or set them over here in my towel as they come out. And right off the bat, I noticed that these secondary jets are snapped off, which is unfortunate because they are part of the primary fuel system. So we're going to try to get those out and make sure they're clean since we're here. Quite a tedious little task, so
just be careful, use quality screwdrivers, be gentle.
Alright, so my initial hypothesis that the floats are off was correct. I did successfully get all the jets out. That one that was snapped wasn't that tight, so thank God I was able just to get it out. So the fact that that's broken isn't going to cause an issue with the carburetor. It's just kind of annoying. Just personal preference. I might be able to replace it. I don't know if I have one. So, the book says, I double checked, both my books say the same thing. As part of the reassembly process, to measure the float level with the air horn upside down first, and you measure from the tip to the gasket. It does specify that it needs the gasket. And 16 millimeters plus or minus a half of a millimeter. And then you flip it over and measure the drop. And the drop is measured from the lowermost portion of the float to the gasket as well. So, got it sitting up here upside down. So usually your carb rebuild kits come with one of these little rulers. So I'm going to measure with millimeters. And so we stick it on there. I'm going to see if I can do this and hold the camera. And as you can see, this one is right about 16 millimeters. The one is 10, so. But this one, way off. I mean, it's like 22 millimeters. So there's the problem. So going to readjust this one and then flip it over and measure the drop. I also noticed that this float isn't necessarily a different shape, but the little tabby is different than this other one. So the little tabby on these floats, this is the one that measured correctly. See how long it is compared to this one? I don't know what's going on there. I was told this carburetor was rebuilt with a kit, and in my experience, the kits that you can buy today, the floats suck, and the needle and seats also suck. So when I rebuild carburetors, these Nikkis especially, I don't replace the needles and seats unless they're like completely trashed. I don't know what it is about these. It's such a tiny little part that you can't necessarily tell with the eye, but they usually don't seat properly. So I don't usually replace them, but this one's already been rebuilt and I don't have the originals. So we're gonna roll with it. I have another float in my collection that I think I'm going to swap out. I'm going to swap out for this one. This is an original float, and its tab is much like the other one here. So that's where I am sorry for the shadows. We're going to have to get better lighting for the next video. So we're going to swap out the float for that one and set that one off to the side and use this pair. Another thing with being really detail-oriented, I thought I should pull these seats out of here and make sure there's only one washer under them, because that will, change the measurement. There is only one washer under them. Got that out. Though, I also got out one of the original fuel filter screens that is halfway plugged. And there was only one of them. They go down under the seat. So I flipped it over and shook the carburetor. So I'm not sure which one it came out of, but regardless, there was only one of them. So that also could cause an issue. I don't know if I will replace those or not. So moving on. Going to reassemble and check float levels. Okay, so now the closed position of the floats is good. So now I flipped the air horn over, and I can't really get this accurately with holding the camera. But essentially what you're going to do is you're going to take your measuring stick, push the gasket so that it's up tight against there, and measure the drop of this float. And it should be 51 millimeters. So there's the 5, which is 50. Yeah, you can't really tell while I'm holding the camera and this and stuff, but that's how you do it. So now that the floats are adjusted correctly, that should fix the flooding issue. Because basically it was just being overran with fuel, and the bowls were filling up, and the floats weren't closing it off completely. Interesting that I didn't really do a whole lot of diagnosis, because like literally there was so much fuel going into the carburetor. I'm like, well, the floats are stuck. So, but one float was good, and the other float, like I showed you, was like a little weird. And way out of adjustment for the closed drop, which would result in overfueling. So pretty sure that should fix it, along with not running those gaskets between the carburetor base plate, blocking those vacuum or air holes, vacuum lines, stuff. We're super technical here. So now we're gonna put it back together. I don't have any jets. That's kind of a bummer. So we're gonna have to reuse those ones with little broken tabs. Yeah, so let's put it back together. So I go over this real quick. These tiny little check ball. So it goes in the big hole for the accelerator pump. And then check ball, little cylinder, this guy with little gasket, and then the screw. And then this is the other side of the accelerator pump. Little ball, also a little cylinder, and then that screw. And that one goes in that hole. Alright, so this is the most tricky part of the assembly. So there's, like I said, the biometallic spring in here. I want to make sure you got this rod up here so that it goes on top of this bracket. I want to already hook up this guy up here, and then take your screwdriver, pull that spring down, see if I can get it on camera, and then slip that lever in like that. There we go. So you want to try to get this lever, you want to get the spring under this lever, and then make sure that this, focus, that guy is on top here. And then put your couple screws in there. Hold that there. The screw. So all these have lock washers on them, so they don't need Loctite. You really don't want them that tight in case there's any disassembly in the future. I'm missing something here. That goes on there.
Okay, so once you get that bracket on with the choke and the biometallic spring on there, you can go ahead and put your throttle spring bracket on top of there and make the sandwich. Then the long screw goes all the way through the air hat into the bottom portion, and then the short one just screws into the air hat itself. Get that one started. There we go. That tightens down, and that tightens down. Hook up those two lines now. And then you can hook up this return spring. Show you what I'm doing here. Get my hand out of the way. A little baby washer off there. Put it in there. Put the washer back on. And then put the jig back in there. Oh, drop this spring. The spring goes from this little guy up to here. Like that. There we go. So when you take apart this linkage, if you have to really, do a deep clean of this carburetor, just take a lot of photos. That's the best advice I can give you. Because the manual, even if you have the really nice manuals, they don't really help you out too much. So, and I'm not diving that deep into this carburetor right now. This one doesn't need a full restoration, just a little bit of cleaning. So now we can put this guy back on here. So maybe in the future I will do a full-blown comprehensive emissions removal on one of these, because you don't really need the biometallic electric spring. I mean, if you're doing a hot rod, don't really need that. The choke is cable operated anyways. You don't really need this dash pot. You obviously need the return springs, though the one thing we are going to do on this video is show you how to change the vacuum secondaries into mechanical secondaries, and that is the easiest thing in the world. So, carburetor over here. So secondaries are the bigger ones, primaries are the little ones. These are normally operated by this diaphragm right here. You can basically override that. So, like, when we twist the throttle, that is just primaries, right? So, but it is also moving this lever right here, which operates the secondaries. Let's see if I can. So that last little bit right there is where the secondaries open. But this linkage has to move in order for the vacuum to even open. So what we're going to do here is we're going to tie these two spots right here together, and that should make it mechanical. Alright, so now it's time to put the carburetor back on the car. I got it all put together. Got this all assembled. I think the only thing I did off camera was put this guy back on. And it's super simple. So we're gonna go ahead and put it back on the car, and
watch it work. So, find easiest is to actually hook up the throttle linkage before even putting the carb in place, is kind of having it on its side. Hook up the throttle cable and the choke cable and the throttle return cable, and then plopping the carb on there and fidgeting with the nuts in the really tight places. So good luck. I'll see you on the other side. Well, I got it. Took me about half an hour to get those 4 nuts on. That is the most difficult part of a 12A carburetor, is getting the damn nuts on the base plate to bolt it to the intake. So, yeah, that seems to be the problem. We're gonna go on a test drive. She's over there idling, got the air cleaner back on. So I'm gonna close the door and we'll go on a little drive. I gotta roll up the windows in the repo. But yeah, let's go do my absolute favorite part of all car projects, which is operating them. Just look at that. She's gorgeous. She's gorgeous. She's gorgeous. Oh, buzzer and all. Nothing like a sunset drive. 4 speed. Buckle up for safety. Ooh, that's a... So this little car, like I said, is a pretty fresh engine. So I would assume fresh clutch and everything, so it feels pretty good. It's a solid shift, a long throw. Oh man, there's a squeak from coming back here. This is my first time driving this car, like, at all. I only fired it up in the shop just to see that the carburetor was ruining itself with fuel. So we'll get up here. It's got a little heat in it already, so we'll get up here and give her the beans. See if watch my phone fall if we got that much acceleration. But yeah, consistent throttle, 3 grands, feels good. Oh yeah, brakes. He said he redid all the brakes. Yeah, that's not bad. We're not gonna go that far. Steering wheel is in my knees, but the seat feels comfy. So yeah, it's pretty good. I dig it. Alright, so that's a wrap. I have fixed it. It was a fluid issue. Also, there was extra gaskets around the carb base plate that were blocking off vacuum passages. So I think those 2 things kind of led to everything. Just took it out today for the second day for a 15-mile cruise. Performs beautifully. Checked the timing, checked the OMP, looked at the spark plugs. All checks out great. Check compression. We got even pulses on all 3 sides of both rotors. So I think the car's in pretty good shape, and it's going to go back to my buddy, and I think he's going to be pretty happy with it. Now he can actually drive it and enjoy it and not feel like he's going to get stranded on the side of the road because that's just pouring fuel into the carburetor and flooding it. So we'll put some fresh gas in it, and I think it's going to be great for him. Just in time for summer cruise. So that's a wrap and a brap. So Mason known this little carburetor help. Drop in the comments if you have any other questions about these Nikki carburetors. They're super cool, super simple, relatively simple. And I mean, they're a carburetor. I mean, come on, they're mechanical. That's a brap. We're gonna go hop in the repo and go get some lunch.